It's Valentine's Day. Hope you've had a good one. We begin tonight with a whole new look at sex and several religious leaders who have strong opinions on the subject. These pastors say not only is sex not a sin, if you're married, it's an important way to glorify God. And according to them, it's all right there in the Bible. Here's ABC's Dan Harris for our series, Faith Matters.
Why is a bed being loaded onto the top of this church in Grapevine, Texas? Because the devout evangelical congregation here is mounting an elaborate bed-in, modeled on the one first put on in 1969 by those countercultural icons John Lennon and Yoko Ono. The stars of this racy bit of redux, Pastor Ed Young and his wife, Lisa.
God invented it. We should be bold and audacious in talking about it.
They're up here for 24 hours talking about one of their favorite topics, sex.
God is pro-sex. Sex begins in heaven.
They were shouting it from the rooftop. The first place to have that talk is in the home. The second place is the church.
Right here.
So a few hours in, they invited me to put on a harness. This isn't part of the whole sex thing, is it? No. Okay. Take a ride in a crane. Morning. And join them, not in the bed, but right beside it. Hey guys.
Hi.
Should I call you John and you Yoko? How's this work? Yeah. Nice to meet you. So are you guys gonna be...
No.
No hanky-panky.
This whole stunt is designed to publicize their new book called The Sexperiment, in which they challenge Christian married couples to have sex every day for a week. Do you think in the Christian world there's a hang-up on this issue?
Definitely.
For sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
According to the Youngs, for too long, Christians have been unenthusiastic and unimaginative about sex. They don't call it the missionary position for nothing.
God is pro-sex. He wants us to talk about it, and I think for far too long the church has been very, very shy to talk about what God was not shy to create.
They say they're trying to reclaim sex from a popular culture that has perverted it.
And the sad thing is that our culture is throwing all these cues, all these words, all these pictures of what sex is, and it's not working out well for marriages.
What a lot of people may not know is that sex is discussed all over the Bible.
Sex primarily is for recreation. It's for pleasure. It's for fun. Secondarily for procreation.
That's what the Bible says.
The Bible says that.
While the Youngs insist their book is about improving marriages, it's not a sexual how-to guide. So you're not saying to people, here's where you can go buy pink fuzzy handcuffs?
No.
Or things like that.
No.
Up in Seattle, Pastor Mark Driscoll and his wife Grace just published a book that comes pretty close to being a how-to guide. So we'll just tick off a few of them. Where do you come down on oral sex in the book?
The Bible seems to speak of it on a few occasions and recognizes it as an acceptable aspect of marriage.
Does the Bible say anything about anal sex?
No, it doesn't.
So where do you come down on that?
It's not a sin. It might not be healthy and good. So we wouldn't generally recommend it, but you can't say that it's a sin because it's not in the Bible.
Where does the book come down on masturbation?
The Bible doesn't say anything about it, which is kind of interesting because I'm assuming it's an old issue, you know.
But not everything is a go, says Pastor Mark. No pornography.
No pornography.
But there's nothing in the Bible about pornography.
Well, it's about lust. If a husband and wife have deep, interest in each other, that's a good thing. If somebody else is involved, then it's a bad thing.
And if you are a minor, you should get your parents' permission.
Mark Driscoll was already considered one of the most controversial pastors in America.
How dare you! Who in the hell do you think you are?
With a history of saying things criticized as being chauvinist and sexist.
I greatly desire to be led by my husband, but often I feel like I am not easy to lead. Grace, do you have any pointers?
I've definitely been difficult to lead at times as well.
But this new book is being called the most provocative sex book ever written by an evangelical. This critic writes, this book is an astoundingly unbelievable work of disrespect for women. What do you think he's basing the sexist argument on? Your argument that the Bible says that the man is the leader in the household?
Yeah, I would guess so, but it goes on to say that the man is the leader like Jesus is a leader. Humble, sacrificial, patient, gracious, loving, and kind. And so you got to say all that the Bible says, and then it gets a lot better.
In the first chapter, the couple shares a searing account of their bitterly unhappy and largely sexless early marriage. Problems they later learned were due to a sexual assault that Grace had suffered as a teen. So there have been some critical readers of that first chapter. This is a quote. Grace is often cast as the damaged and sinful wife who withholds sex from her deserving husband.
I wouldn't have expected that response. I had brought baggage from my sexual assault into the marriage, and so I perceived things a certain way.
You don't believe then, as sometimes has been sort of imputed to you, that a wife should be available to do pretty much anything the husband wants?
No. Marriage is about lovingly serving one another, but when there's one domineering over the other, you've really got an abusive situation. That's exactly what we want to avoid.
The Youngs, too, insist this is not about women being forced to be more sexually available to their husbands. It is, they say, about starting a sexual revolution. And the way this revolution would look like, from your view, is married men and women having a lot of sex,
Yes.
and therefore having
great sex.
Can't believe I'm sitting on the top of the church listening to somebody talk about
You
great
talk about,
sex.
you know, the only awkward
This revolution may be a little bit awkward, but it is high time, they say, to bring God back into the bed. For Nightline, this is Dan Harris in Grapevine, Texas.